I have always been an advocate really of strong political parties, established and sustainable political parties, which means authorized funding sources for the political parties, not only in elections, but to be able to churn out policies and programs. Now, for example, the spending limits, assuming you have a strong political party, you want to put somebody who's deserving but who has no money into office, the spending limits, which are equal for everybody, egalitarian, don't work. I mean, it will work
So
to the advantage of
Why?
it should be not capped, but the expenses must be disclosed. So, and then you allow political parties to have sources of funding, let's say from business, from other sources, but they must disclose. Because I mean, like media, for example, at the end of the day, it's the bottom line in terms of the profit and loss sheet and the income statement. The same with the political party. If you have weak political party structures, basically by
Which we do.
and laws, basically by the egalitarianism of the COMELEC, then you won't have political party loyalty. Secondly, they will only crop up when there are elections. Political parties should be think tanks. They should be able to tap, let's say you want to file a bill or something. You have your staff, of course, in Senate, but in the political parties, they should provide the research based on the party principles, but they won't be able to do this if you cannot sustain them.
Do you think these parties should be subsidized? Because may ganyan mga suggestion eh.
Yes.
Dapat na i-subsidize ng gobyerno, di ba?
Hindi. Ako subsidy ng gobyerno in other countries is subject to counterpart funding also.
So parang may share, parang ganon.
May share. Yung marginalized parties, for example, yung funding sources nila maliit, isa-subsidize yun. But the more important thing is talaga, you have sunshine laws, no? Saan ka kumukuha ng kontribusyon? Saan ka kumukuha ng donasyon? And gawing tax deductible yung mga donasyon sa political parties, because then you're investing in political institutions of your choice, of your color. Pero i-disclose ng kumpanya man or ano, no? At kung kumpanya ito, siguraduhin lang na hindi ito foreign company, no?
Mr. Teodoro, you're talking about electoral and campaign finance reforms. I remember panahon pa ni Speaker Joe De Venecia, he's been pushing for these laws already. Kaya lang, there has always been resistance from, well, certain persons na as gusto nila, opaque yung campaign finance. If you win, are you going to, dapat second gap pa to, ba tatanungin ko na rin. If you win, are you going to push for these reforms, campaign finance, electoral reforms? Sabi ng COMELEC, they already have suggestions with Congress kung paano dapat gawin.
Yes, but if it comes from the regulator itself, based on my experience in the private sectors, because normally, for example, the SEC, the BSP, and other agencies, they submit draft regulations for comments. I hope the COMELEC does that too, no? Because coming from a regulator, sometimes it's also influenced by other societies, no? Like our model of what a good government is the Scandinavian democracies, no? And it's really egalitarian, but it won't work in our country because the systems are totally different. So I am for campaign finance reform, but what is the meaning of reform? Me, it's a big dose of realism into Philippine political conditions as to how these parties can flourish and be established. Because if not, then it will also affect the quality of governance in the future, at least on the elective side. Now, to balance this also, although we have to pick at specific agencies, we can't have a wholesale subsidy, across the board. I was going to talk about the bureaucracy. To counteract the political side, you need a strong bureaucracy, which is often forgotten or even not realized by the voting public now. Because if you talk about politics, the first thing that they think of is sinong iboboto ko. But the continuum and the information should come from the bureaucracy before they present it to the elected decision makers, so that theoretically at least, the decision maker acts with all available information. So on the same side, you have political party reform, you should have bureaucratic reform also. And you really have to free some agencies of the bureaucracy, knowing that they should compete, that they compete for human capital resources with the private sector. And it will benefit the government if you can hire or even outsource some specialized skills, no, without the restrictions of the procurement law, particularly in IT. And even in health, no, I mean, vaccine companies, if they spend billions of dollars in research, they're going to require you to sign an NDA, and you're at the mercy of the supplier. If not, you're not going to get it. So the ability also of the government to invest in emerging and disruptive technologies. The government should set aside some capital as risk capital for investments in these ventures, or even provide incentives for R&D to our private sector and schools, or participate in R&D at the source, wherever this may be. Because in disruptive and emerging technologies, particularly in the information security field, you have to be a co-partner of the development, because if you're gonna buy off-the-shelf solutions, then it's too late. You're gonna be
let me ask you, is this proposal of yours something that the very, let's just say, vested interest run politicians in Congress will support? Is it something that...
I think so, because it makes sense. It makes sense to me. I mean, the institutionalization of a political party which is there to serve their needs legitimately, no, and with sunlight, I think it will be something that they will support rather than proscriptions against certain behavior. Because I'm a great believer of giving incentives for good behavior rather than just punishment of or prescribing what we deem abhorrent.